And we are live. Welcome to the NFL Strategy Show, a lineup construction edition. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by the boss man himself, Alex Baker. You guys know him as Awesemo. We are here to build some lineups today. We're going to look at Fanduel Cash. We're going to look at a Draftkings GPP build. We're going to get in and out in 30 minutes, and we're going to do it all sponsored by Jock Market. And we'll touch on Jock Market in a bit. But first, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. But those likes, those are the fun part of all of this, and it's easy for you guys to do so. Now, we'll start with the other spot for me. Alex, how are you?
Doing good, man. I had some close calls in week one, but not a ton of luck. Kind of turned it around a little bit last night, but now that we know everything there is to know about every NFL team, week two should be a cinch, right?
Absolutely. We should definitely take everything from week one as our only piece of sample and move forward with that information. I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, it was a big miss on JD McKissick last night, unfortunately, but you know, what can you do? We got to go off the best information we have, which is week one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love playing showdown slates. Main slate NFL Sundays, not as fun for me. Showdown, I feel like I can do that all day. So I'm really loving Thursdays, Sunday nights, and Monday nights.
Nice. Yeah, it's great to just have more and more chances to play. So like that's the best thing you can do to get consistent results is just play more slates.
All right. So I wanted to ask you one quick question before we get started building this FanDuel lineup. And for specific reasons, I am using lineups. I'm looking at lineup study right now for DraftKings. We don't have the FanDuel option. I'm looking at the massive $25 double up. It was a single entry contest. To me, it's sort of like the best way to figure out what was going on from a cash game perspective. We saw two guys, Kyle Pitts and Marquez Callaway, get to basically 50% ownership in this contest. To me, they are sort of the best cash options from last week. Pitts had 7. Callaway had 2.4. I just wanted to get your thoughts. If you were trying to review your cash lineup from the previous week, is there anything you would specifically want to look at? Would you just be trying to make sure most of your lineup was sort of represented by the field in a contest like this? Is there anything else you would want to be looking at to see if you had any like leaks or problems in your process?
Yeah, so the thing I would look at with Pitts and Callaway, because obviously the fantasy production was disappointing, is the playing time and then the targets. So both of them were on the field like 80% of the snaps or more, but that was a good sign. And then Kyle Pitts got a lot of targets. Marquez Callaway didn't, but the Saints just didn't throw the ball very many times either. So there wasn't much opportunity. So I think they were the right plays. It just didn't work out. Okay,
that works for me. Is there anything else? Would you look like, does the way that guys were owned during the week, does Pitts being 56% owned, does Callaway being 49% owned, do you pay attention to that at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you have high owned players in cash, that's usually a good sign that you're not making mistakes, because the biggest thing you're trying to avoid in cash is just making big mistakes. Because most people have pretty solid lineups, and you're kind of, the way you make money in cash is just other people making mistakes. So as long as you play solid, you should come out ahead over time.
That's what I like to hear. Just wanted to take a look at it because it was week one, and I know we did a little bit of talking from a cash perspective. Now we're going to do a lot of bit of talking from a cash perspective. It is time to build a FanDuel cash lineup. So I'm going to start here. I think this is the easiest way to do it. If you're putting one person into a cash lineup right now on FanDuel, who do you think that first person is? Or if, I guess it is just person in this scenario. It could be people from time to time, but who would be your first option from cash and why?
Wow, that's a great question. So it looks like on the big board, we have a bunch of players that are all kind of in contention for that first pick. So I guess the guys I'm looking at are Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Darren Waller. Waller, I guess, would be probably the first pick for me because he was just like getting insane targets week one. And for a tight end, that's pretty unusual. And he's only 7K, so it's not a crazy price.
So I have, I was about to have one big question for you, and then I realized what the problem was. I never switched to Fanduel. And I was like, I'm just curious why you're not mentioning Chris Carson, the guy that's number one on your board, but because he's not number one on the Fanduel board. So it's a little bit different. So Darren Waller would be the choice for you. It's not at all that I disagree with that. I think that looks pretty good. I'm pulling up our lineup builder now. Great tool, just in case you've never seen it. It is on the screen, makes building these lineups a breeze. So let's go ahead and put Waller in. I'm on DraftKings or Fanduel. I'm on Fanduel now.
Nice.
I'm not used. It's weird. I love Fanduel for the NBA. I greatly prefer DraftKings for football. I'm all over the map.
I like whatever side I'm winning on, to be honest.
That's a great point. That's a great point. All right, so we've got Waller in at tight end, and he was one of the guys that I listed out. I didn't know if we're going to go Waller, Kittle, or just fully do a tight end punt so that we could pay up elsewhere. So we've got our first guy in there, and Waller pulling some ownership. So I think this is going to end up looking like a really nice option. We can keep it moving now. Do you want to look to running backs, perhaps? Just looking at your big board, we've got 3 wideouts at 1, 2, and 3. Cooper Kupp is first, Diggs second, Samuel third. Kupp, the cheapest of those guys at 6,200. It feels like Cooper Kupp just automatically goes into this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, Kupp is a fantastic play this week. He got a lot of routes last week. He ran routes on 95% of the Rams dropbacks. But the biggest thing I noticed was that the Rams switched to a much more pass-heavy attack last week. So I think that is going to benefit everyone who's catching passes there. And it makes a lot of sense because they switch quarterbacks.
Now, is this a situation where, and like I said, we've got these 3 guys at the top. Is it easiest to just put Deebo Samuel in as well? He's 6,900. And then if we just happen to have an extra $600 at the end, we can turn Deebo Samuel into Diggs. Should we just build from the bottom up?
I feel a little iffy on Samuel, even though like his projection is good, like because it just seemed like so fluky. So I'm just like, okay, I like quantitatively, the projection's really good. Qualitatively, I want to wait and see more. So I'd come back to wide receiver later and see what we got.
Okay, so you wouldn't go to Diggs immediately either.
So the guy I'm looking at here is Najee Harris.
Okay.
He got all the snaps in case you hadn't heard. That's the main thing I'm looking at because the salary is 6,100. That means on FanDuel we're only looking for like 12.2 points, and given his workload, that should be pretty easy to accomplish.
Well, Najee Harris was the first guy that I listed on here. Cooper Kupp was the first guy that I listed at wideout. So far, we're on the right track. We've got 3 guys in: Najee Harris, Cooper Kupp, Darren Waller. I think quarterback hashes itself out once we get to it. I think defense hashes itself out once we get to it. You mentioned, so we got Harris in. After that at running back, we do have Chris Carson, 6,700. He is the number 1 ranked running back on your big board, just slightly ahead of Harris. Are we just going straight to Carson?
Yeah, I like Carson. He got a huge workload last week. Part of that was because Rashad Penny got injured mid-game, and Alex Collins should be kind of filling in for Penny. So it remains to see what workload split there's going to be, but Carson is going to get at least half the touches, which is pretty valuable.
So we're locking in Harris and Carson. We've got Kupp and Waller. We need 2 wideouts of flex, vent, and quarter. Average 6,800. Just looking at the quarterback position, this doesn't feel like a spot that I don't want to say that I'm not worried about. It just feels a little bit different this week than it normally does. You've got Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, all relatively similar rankings on the big board to each other. Does anything just immediately stand out to you at quarterback from a cash perspective, or is this just a whoever fits?
I think to some degree it's whoever fits, because if you go down to value quarterbacks, like the top of the list is Tua Tagovailoa. He's 6,600, so that's not someone I feel like very confident in, but he's cheap. So I think it will come down to, do we have 7.5K or 8.5K to decide who we pick?
Okay, so your expectation now is to just simply leave that for right now and figure it out at a later time?
Exactly.
Perfect. So what stands out then? Who don't we have in here? Probably time to go back to the wide receiver spot. I know we talked about Samuel. I know we talked about Cooks. There's not the same sort of like 3K value options like we had last week, where it felt like we had an infinite amount of pay down options. Now it's sort of more in the 5K range, whether that's Chase Claypool or Cole Beasley. Both of those guys are ranked pretty high on your big board. Where else do you want to go now? Because it seems like the gap from our top 3 to what then becomes Chris Godwin at 4 is kind of big.
Yeah, I think the guy I'm leaning towards here is Stephon Diggs. He got a zillion targets last week, 13, and he only scored 11 fantasy points. So his salary is still pretty low. But Buffalo, they pass at a very high rate. So he's probably the wide receiver I'm going to put in cash at a high end this week. And since we got Carson and Cup, they're kind of Carson and Harris, they're kind of on the lower end of running back. We should have plenty of money here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we get Diggs in there at 7,500. Still have 2 more spots. I know this is probably not a question that you can answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Flex position on FanDuel. I know that individually you're not generally just paying attention to the actual guy that is in that flex spot, whether it's a running back, a wideout, potentially 2 tight ends. Do you think that you likely lean more towards the running back side on FanDuel just because of the half-point PPR?
Yeah, I think that in general, like usually I've found on FanDuel slates that running backs are a little bit better values than wide receivers because of the half-point PPR. So I do end up with a lot of 3 running back lineups in both cash and GPP.
Okay. So we definitely need 1 more wideout, and then the flex spot is going to be at least up in the air. Are you opening your mind at all more now that we're building this out to Deebo Samuel, or are we just looking to go to someone a little bit more steady? Is it, 7K DK Metcalf, 8K Chris Godwin? Are any of these guys standing out?
Let's go for defense here because I want to know how much money we have left per position. So
I like it.
The top defense on the board is the Browns versus Houston.
Yes.
I mean, Houston's supposed to only have 4 wins this year. I know they had a good game last week, but the Browns are a good defense too. So that one really stands out.
All right. Browns defense, 4,200. Quarterback, wideout, flex, $7,400 on average for all 3 of them. I think we can go pretty big here.
I agree. Yeah, let's do it.
So just looking at the running backs and wideouts that we have left, highest ranked running back, Chris Carson, he's in. Najee Harris is in. The next 2 running backs on your big board are Austin Eckler at 7K and Nick Chubb at 8,400. I don't hate the idea of going to Chubb at all in this spot, especially against Houston. There's, I guess, at least a little positive synergy with Chubb plus Brown's D as well. Do you like going to Chubb here?
Yeah, Chubb stands out. I mean, he's the guy that's going to get a large workload, and in a Cleveland win, they're huge favorites this week. So I think our rushing projection on him was like 100 yards. So that's pretty hard to beat. So I think Chubb is a great play.
Chubb in. QB wideout, $13,900 remaining.
I guess some kind of Debo is kind of growing on me, like as I go down the list, because he did really stand out as being the only guy in San Francisco that did much. So, I mean, they don't pass the ball very much, which is my mental block here. What do you think?
I'm happy to go to it. I think he projects well, and you and I, generally speaking, are going to be looking at this in the same way. If the data says that he looks like a decent play and this is a cash game lineup, like I'm just going to move forward with it. It might not feel great, but it seems on the surface to be a good play statistically.
Definitely. Yeah, let's do it. We don't have much money left for QB now, so we might have to tweak a spot or 2.
We have 7K remaining for QB.
That's the problem, is like the only 7K guy that's standing out is Tua Tagovailoa or Teddy Bridgewater. So I think if we just go up a little bit and get 7,600 for Herbert, that would be a big upgrade. Okay,
so let's do that then. Let's put Justin Herbert in this lineup and cement ourselves what our core is, and we'll figure out who we step back with. So if we go to Justin Herbert, we add him. We need to free up $600. First place that I want to look This could be easy to do. 42, so 3,600. The Bills D against Miami is 3,700. That would have been the spot that I thought was easiest to handle, but it doesn't look like we're going to be making a change from a defensive perspective. I don't want to go to Cincinnati. That would be the one that would open it up the most. So,
okay, I got one.
Ooh, you got it?
Well, this one, let me see how you feel about this. Ezekiel Elliott is a 60 on the big board for 7,500. So we could go down from Chubb to Zeke.
Okay.
And then we could go from Herbert to Hurts.
Okay. I think I have one thought as well. I want to know where you're coming in here. So that's 42. So I could free up. If we drop from Browns to Bills D, that will free up $500.
Nice.
We still need 100 there, obviously. What are your thoughts? This might be too big of a drop. What are your thoughts on going from Waller to Kittle? Kittle at 6,700 frees up $300.
I would rather drop the defense just because I feel like
they would be happening in synergy. Both of those things would have to happen together to free up the $600. Or we go with the path that you were seeing for Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I don't dislike that. I do feel a lot better about the Cleveland defense in Buffalo because Tua just doesn't throw a lot of interceptions.
Okay.
But yeah, that's kind of why I'm leaning switching off Chubb. Zeke didn't have a big fantasy game last week, but he did have an encouraging share of the work. So that'd be my preference.
We have it here then. Did you want to go to Hurts instead of Herbert?
Do we have the money for that?
We do, but you also have Justin Herbert ahead of Jalen Hurts on the big board.
Well, that also factors in salary, so that doesn't necessarily mean that he's projected higher.
Okay. That question was for the viewers who would likely see that and not understand why this was happening. So if we put that in there with Hurts and Zeke, 90% or greater value ranking, yes. Contrarian ranking less than 10%, yes.
All right, that sounds good.
We just built ourselves a cash lineup for FanDuel, everybody.
Awesome.
Looks pretty good to me.
I like it.
So we've got one in the books. We're about to do a DK GPP build now. Man behind the virtual glass, Chris Karen, is about to put up a poll for you guys. We want to know who you want us to build this stack for. So we're giving you 4 choices: Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Seattle, Arizona. These are some of the top stacks on our top stack tool right now. This is for DraftKings. Who should our stack be for this video? Now, while you guys vote on that, I'm going to let you guys know you should sign up at awesemo.com using the promo code NFL Strategy Show. That's one big word. You get an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. That's going to give you access to everything. So projections, ownership projections, premium Slack, top stacks, every single thing that exists on the website, you will have access to it for that week. It's the perfect way to get in the door. $29.95, not too shabby there. And you just use that promo code NFL Strategy Show. Again, one giant word. Everything's smushed together. And you'll probably see Nightbot drop a link to that as well in chat. That might be a little bit easier for you. Plus, I got to talk at least a little bit about a sponsor of our show. That is Jock Market. They're turning fantasy sports into a stock exchange. Very different. Whether it's NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, you can make real money every hour, minute, and second of every match or game. You can do this from your couch. If this is, let's just say it's a baseball game and you're heavily invested in a leadoff hitter at 7 o'clock. You get your shares of that guy and he goes up, puts one in the cheap seats right out of the gate. You can sell your shares immediately if you'd like to and just lock in your profits or sit on it hoping he's going to continue. You can do all of that immediately. It's pretty fun. Use the promo code Awesemo when you sign up. Just download the app in the App Store, sign up, make a deposit using the promo code Awesemo. Get up to a $50 bonus on your first deposit. That offer is exclusive to Awesemo.com. So if you want to do it, I highly suggest you do. So shout out to Jock Market. Who's winning this poll, Alex?
Well, I see Seattle is coming up on top here. So it looks like in our top stacks tool, they have Russell Wilson has a 7.7 ownership percentage, and the top stack percentage is 10%. Makes sense because Seattle's got a great passing offense, great receivers, and Tennessee's defense is kind of either average or below average. So I think that's a pretty good spot to target.
I'm so happy you said Russell Westbrook. It makes me. I did it the first year that I was here, and probably since then too a lot. I did it like every time I had to say Russell Wilson. It became so frequent. I didn't notice I would do it. I was doing it, and chat would immediately tell me. So thank you for that. It's hard, man. We say a lot of people's names over and over again. It just kind of gets stuck on your tongue.
I had Wilson, but I wanted to get your back by mentioning Westbrook.
I appreciate you, boss. I appreciate you. All right, so Wilson in. We're going to go with the Seattle stack. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for the votes. By the way, you did a great job voting. You should also do a great job hitting that like button. We're at 71 right now. Let's see if we can get north of 100. Wilson in. So is your preferred mechanism here just DK Metcalf? Just Tyler Lockett? Both? Do we add a tight end to one of those guys? Are we running it back with AJ Brown? Are we running it back with Derrick Henry or Julio Jones? There are so many options here. Is there something that immediately stands out to you?
Yeah, I guess Lockett and Metcalf, I'd want one of those two. Now, Lockett had the big game last week, but I feel like people are kind of over like who had the big game last week. I think the ownership will be pretty like split between them. And as many people out there as there are that are like, okay, Lockett had the big game, there's probably just as many that are like, okay, that means everyone's going to have them. So I'm kind of torn between the two. Both isn't a bad idea either. Which one would you be leaning towards?
I mean, it's a literal coin flip. To me, you could take those names away. They're separated by $400. They're basically owned the same. They're basically projected the same. To me, it's basically impossible. Like we're hoping to be right about the touchdown breaks for Seattle. And I don't think that either one of those guys is more likely than the other. So I don't really have much of a lean. If we had more time, it would probably be a great poll question for the audience. I think it's easier to start with Lockett. And if we just happen to have $400 more and we really want to go to Metcalf, we can do that.
Awesome. Let's do it.
So we're in with Lockett. Do you want to double that up by any chance? Do you want to go to Gerald Everett as well? Or do you even, I don't think it's going to be super feasible, but like, do we try to go to both?
Yeah, there's a lot of options here. I think that Everett, he looks like a solid play at tight end. The work was split between him and Disley. So Everett had 62% of routes and Disley had 66% of Russell Wilson dropbacks. So that was split pretty even, but Everett, I feel like it gets targeted more. So I guess we could throw Everett in there. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't mind it in this scenario. I don't mind going double stacked. I think that looks fine. Before we move on, I do want to say D. Owen sent in a super chat, and I appreciate that. Said for a big GPP, is Ayuk and Smith leverage or too thin?
Ayuk, well,
I mean, I don't know what to say about Ayuk right now.
I think one of the ways you can get leverage is just by not playing any San Francisco wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I don't like Ayuk because he didn't get a good snap share last week. On dropbacks, he only was on the field 56% of the time. So we have to have a good reason to believe that's going to go up. It doesn't make any sense to me like that he didn't play more, but
right.
I also don't have any insight into him playing more next week. So I don't hate Ayuk, but I feel like there's a lot more confidence in other plays this week.
For sure. So thank you for the super chat, D. Owens. I wanted to make sure that I touched on that before we kept going. Are we bringing back this stack with AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, Julio Jones, any of those three guys?
Yeah, I think that we probably don't want Henry because like if Henry has a big game, that means there's less plays probably in the game overall. Where AJ Brown, if Tennessee's down and they pass and they're successful, then Russell Wilson will have to keep passing. So I think that's a big factor. So Julio's price this week is extremely high. So
yeah,
I'm kind of like the ownership's a lot lower though. So I guess my initial inclination is AJ Brown, what do you think?
I would like to go to Brown if we can. And this is another spot where if we don't have that $600, like if we're $500 over or something, then we can pretty easily just drop to Julio if we need to.
Awesome.
All right. So we've got the stack in. It's Wilson, Lockett, Everett, AJ Brown. Now we need to fill that out, and we kind of have to be mindful of pricing at this point in time because we're using a lot of salary on the Lockett, Brown, Wilson trio. So if I hop to our DraftKings big board for right now, I've got it sorted for the main slate, so I won't whiff on anything here. Corey Davis, $5,300 wideout. Cole Beasley, $4,600 wideout. Feels like one of those two guys need to just go into this lineup immediately.
Yeah. All right. So I'm also looking at the big board here. Corey Davis, we only have a 4.7% ownership and a 7% chance of being optimal. So that definitely seems like the kind of guy that we want in a contrarian stack here. So I like it.
Okay.
Corey Davis, he had a huge game last week. So we'll see if that ownership climbs throughout the week. But as of now, that looks pretty good.
Okay. We have no running backs in yet, and we have average $48.75 in salary for 2 running backs, a flex, and a defense. Now, defense is certainly going to be coming in light in this one to free up additional salary, but do we just go straight to Chris Carson at 6,100? Is it Damian Harris that needs to be in this lineup at 5,400? Chase Edmonds at 4,900? Lots of guys that could save some salary here.
I think we really need to go a little bit contrarian since we picked a chalk stack. So, all right, I'm filtering for a running back on the boom bust. Looks like the ownership is very efficient on running backs, so it might be easier to go contrarian at other positions. So that's,
we should have no problem doing that on defense.
Yeah. Yeah, Chase Edmonds, I think solid. I don't really see any standout options at running back this week.
It's a tough spot from what I looked at earlier today.
Yeah, Damian Harris is a solid, cheaper option. He kind of correlates to Corey Davis a little bit in the fact that if New England leads the game, Harris will get a lot of rushing attempts and Jets will pass the ball a lot.
Were you looking to add 2 guys right now?
Oh yeah, we could add 2. So Chase Edmonds, let's see, 4,900. He didn't get as many rushing attempts last week as I was hoping. Connor got a lot of the rushing attempts. It was like 60-40 between them in favor of Connor, but Edmonds got all those valuable passing down work. So I think Edmonds is still a good play.
Okay, that works for me. Do we want to just lock down defense at this point?
Yeah, I think we
get
need
that
to do
salary
something cheap here.
So I got 2 questions for you. Do you want to go to Eagles at 2,400? They're number 2 on the big board, taking on San Francisco. Works for this lineup. Or do you want to get real squirrely and go to the Jets at 2,200 against the New England Patriots?
Well, since we have Damian Harris in here, I'm kind of ruling out the Jets defense.
That makes sense.
So when I'm picking a defense, I'm really looking for a team that is facing a pass-heavy attack. So that's kind of making me lean away from Philadelphia, who's facing San Francisco. And all right, so I'm kind of scrolling up the list a little bit. Panthers versus New Orleans. Like Jameis was great last week, but he's been extremely interception prone in his career. So that one is a decent option. Vegas versus Pittsburgh. Ben Roethlisberger, man, he's just not.
Good.
I don't have any faith in the Pittsburgh offense, so that one could be good. Or Bears versus Burrow. I think those are all good options.
Well, Bears 2,800, 6th on the list. Let's go with the Bears for right now. Your Bears, sort of. So that leaves us 6,400 at the flex. That's
awesome.
Pretty reasonable as far as I can tell. Running back, wide out, click OK. Highest optimal percentage right now of anybody 6,400 or below would be Najee Harris. He's 6,300. He would show up second. Chris Carson as well would work in this lineup. From a fit perspective, we can go Cooper Kupp as well. You know, some of these guys are pulling some decent ownership.
This is where we can lean on the lineup builder a little bit. Let's put in Harris and see what our contrarian ranking is, and then we can make a pivot if it's too high.
All right. Najee Harris goes in. Value rating 70 to 80, contrarian 30 to 40. So we're north of 100, but we're a little inefficient.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm kind of curious if we can play a lot with this this flex spot. So it looks like if we went to let's see, did we pick against Pittsburgh for the defense, or because
we have the Chicago Bears?
Right? Okay, so Deontay Johnson is exactly 6,400, and he's only 5% owned, so that's a quarter of the ownership. And you get leverage against Najee Harris, which is kind of interesting.
Look at this call. 70 to 80% value ranking. 70 to 80% contrarian. How are you feeling about this one for like a large field GPP? Is that value ranking too low to you?
I think we just mic drop at this point, because like when you get it to add up to 100, you're feeling like you got a good lineup. When it adds up to 150, like that's like off the charts.
Well, then I think we're locking this one down. We hit our stack. This lineup looking pretty good for GPPs. I don't have anything else to add here. I hope chat liked it. Bossman, what else do you have going on? Do you have any more shows today? You're going to be back Sunday. You're going to be taking a little bit of a break soon, huh?
Yeah, starting next Friday. So I still got some good stuff in store here. So we got Beyond the Contrary tomorrow. Of course, we got that 4-hour live before lock every Sunday, and you do like double duty on that one. So
I do. I do. Who's on the contrary this week?
We got Brian Hooper, better known as Brick 75. So that should be a lot of fun to get another DFS grinder on there.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to touch on before we get out of here?
Just thanks everyone for supporting the site. If you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and good luck this week.
There it is, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I hope we helped you out trying to build cash lineups for FanDuel and GPP lineups for DraftKings. Make sure you're paying attention to all of the content that we drop, because we have shows upon shows upon shows. It never stops. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 7 more shows across NFL and MLB today just on our channel. So make sure you're watching them. Like, subscribe, notification bell. That's it. We're out.